All right, everybody, welcome to the 329th edition of the Holy Backboard Podcast. I am Dustin here in Rip City, and I got my man.
Sage, very excited to talk about this podcast. It's been such a long time since we recorded. I'm very excited. We're two busy men trying to make this podcasting thing happen. So I'm very excited though, man. This prospect's like got some amazing abilities. So let's talk about this Jett.
In our most recent Future Friday, we are going to discuss Jett Howard. He is a 6'8" guard slash forward from the University of Michigan, freshman. He was a four-star recruit out of on rivals.com, the eighth overall shooting guard, the 46th overall player in the nation in the class of 2022. You heard the name Howard, you heard the school Michigan. Put two and two together. Yes, that is the son of former Trailblazer and current University of Michigan Wolverine head coach and member of the Fab Five, Juwan Howard. Jett is 6'8", 215, and during the 2022-2023 season, appeared in 29 games for the Wolverines, played in nearly 32 minutes, averaged a little over 14 points on 41% from the field, 37 from three on about 7 attempts per game there, shot 80% from the line, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, about a block, half a steal in those contests. At the moment, the Ringer has him as the number 17 overall prospect, while Tankathon has him number 15 on their big board. So a prospect as it currently stands would be about in limbo for the Blazers, who have a much higher at the moment pick, 6th if the standings were as they are today, or 23 from the Knicks. So he would either have to slip or they would have to fall in love, or you could trade up or trade down. But either way, a very fun prospect, and I think tailor-made for the modern NBA where shooting is king and you need shooters to space the floor. Sage, what is the reason you wanted to do Jett Howard as our third prospect? So we covered your favorite prospect, Jarris Walker from Houston. We covered the cannonball, Cam Whitmore from Villanova as our second. And now we decided, let's talk about this player from the University of Michigan, sweet shooting Jett Howard. Why, what was it about Jett that you just jumped off the page like, I want to talk about this guy? This guy gets me excited to do some researching and analysis of his game.
Well, I think obviously the shooting is very captivating, but Michigan is one of those teams where I trust, like, Juwan Howard puts his guys in the best possible position. He runs Jett off of screens, off of pin downs. He gets him open for shots, and it's like it's a pleasure to watch Michigan basketball compared to.
It's an NBA style.
I mean, Juwan Howard runs a better scheme than Chauncey Billups by far. So
Facts.
he gets Jett Howard into very optimal positions, running him off screens. You get to see that 2-man game with Jarris and Hunter Dickinson. Like, there's a lot of good things to watch when you watch a Michigan basketball. But Jett Howard is a fantastic shooter. You get to see him shoot off the catch, off the bounce, off movement. There's just so much that he can do with his shooting. And I think that there is a definite secondary playmaker inside of Jett Howard where you can see the potential of like us maybe an all-star player with the shooting. He has a lot of gifts offensively. And in this draft, it seems like you either get someone who can shoot, defend, or is athletic. With Jett, you get he is fast and he's big, so you get the athleticism and you get the shooting. Defense is questionable, but you get the most valuable asset in the NBA in shooting, and then there's that playmaking upside. If you can mine Jett Howard and you can see that like he's doing like advanced dribble moves in a very nice offense, like you get to see what you have in a off-ball shooter that can do some on-ball stuff. So Jett Howard is a really nice player for this type of NBA where space and pace is king.
So you were one of the biggest Desmond Bain champions in
Oh, that was a stamp.
the class of 2020. You were on the mark. Like, you were the only person that I followed on the draft that had Bain as a high level prospect. And sure enough, if you were to redraft, I think he goes top 3 or top 5 in that class. The reason I ask is because the Ringer, in their player analysis, they say that he has shades of Desmond Bain in his game. Do you see that? And if so, yes. If not, why? Like, how do they compare?
I think we're just subtracting defense from the Desmond Bain equation,
I
right?
think we have to.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
it's
Okay,
not fair.
I mean, Des plays his ass off defensively. Jett tries. I think that you don't,
Des also came into the league as a senior, as a grown ass man.
and I think that Jett has like 4 or 5 inches on him, right?
Yeah,
So you have all the shooting of Desmond Bain in a 6'8" body. I mean, I definitely see the catch and shoot game similar. They both can hit movement shots and they both can shoot off the dribble. So if we're just talking offense, yes, but I think that Jett Howard and Des both have playmate, like they both have had the ball in their hands quite a bit. Like Desmond Bain with Ja out is the second playmaker on that team. So, and I think Jett absolutely can do that as well. Like I've never seen Desmond Bain pull a sham god out in a in a college basketball game like I have seen Jett Howard. So there's definitely similarities, except Jett's significantly taller.
so you keep mentioning the potential playmaking aspect of Jett Howard. I was in preparation for this podcast. One of the resources I like to go to is no ceilings.
Yeah, they're great.
And I believe he was talking about that he also sees the playmaking potential, the upside. But are you afraid that a team is going to draft him and just see a quote unquote 3-and-D, and that's all we're going to box you into, and they're not going to give him a chance to kind of break that ceiling and get maybe uncomfortable for a bit, but to work through those mistakes, kind of like Jalen Williams from Santa Clara is now getting to work through mistakes. And I think he's a more well-rounded player than I think either of us thought,
Oh,
because he's getting to play in a system at OKC. Whereas I think if Jalen Williams were to get drafted in Portland, he's stuck in the corner and that's all he's doing. So do you think this is almost like Jett Howard is the type of player that needs to get drafted into the right coaching system, the right scheme to fully unlock his capabilities?
I think a lot of people have that issue where they're not going to be LeBron James if they get drafted by any team. So I think Jett Howard definitely needs some creativity in the offense to allow for the playmaking. The shooting is always going to be there, and it's a constant, and it's a very, very great skill to have for such a tall shooter. But yeah, I don't think that the Blazers are going to give playmaking reps to Jett Howard when Dame and Ant and Shaden and Nasir all need it. So maybe Blazers aren't the premium place for him to go in terms of the absolute ceiling, but a new coach and everything changes. But right now with Chauncey Billups, I don't think Jett Howard gets that much on ball reps unless Jawan and Chauncey are friends and we just don't know about it. But yeah, I don't think they would sacrifice Dame's usage or Ant's usage to allow Jett to have that playmaking. But he's gonna shoot the shit out of the ball.
One thing I noticed when watching him on offense specifically is obviously the frame, 6'8". We don't know the wingspan quite yet, but he just looks like the part. He looks like an NBA player playing against collegiate athletes. However, I notice he settles for a floater quite a bit instead of initiating contact. I know he's not like a explosive athlete, but do you think there is a chance that he can develop more of a strength in finishing through contact, or do you think he's always going to be a quote unquote finesse player who's going to trust that floater over getting to the bucket? Because when you say Desmond Bain, it looks for contact.
Oh
And
yeah,
he kind of finished through that traffic. So I guess, yeah, my question, do you think that is in the possibilities for Jett, or do you think it's more likely that he's going to kind of shy away from contact during
I
this
think
time?
that it all depends on what the Blazers weight training staff can do to him, because I think that he's not the most, he doesn't have his man's body yet, so he's kind of skinny, so he avoids the contact. Desmond Bain, grown ass man, so I think once he gets the weight training and gets his body to it, the optimal route, he might be able to look for contact. Getting his body to the right track also might help him defensively. Like he relies on him being taller and faster than most people, but if he can get his body right, maybe he can get to be a pass like a fine defender. But I think it's about the weight training and what the Blazers staff or whoever staff it is has for him as a plan for to get his body right. Because you got to also think like Jett's fast for a 6'8" dude. He's fast, so you can't sacrifice the speed for the strength. Because I think what he does off ball, working with that big man to get him space, is really crucial. So you can't sacrifice the speed. So I think it's for a body like for someone who knows athletics more than me to like talk about what he can and cannot do with his body and the floater and get drawing contact.
So since we're a Blazer podcast, a lot of this is predicated on if Jett Howard were a Blazer. And I think both of us are in the camp of how would this player grow next to Shaedon Sharpe. I think we both agree Shaedon at 6'6" is probably better suited to play the 2 than the 3. And I would say at 6'8" and maybe not the most lateral of foot speed, Jett Howard's more suited to play the 3 than the 2. So in a world where you have Shaedon and Jett on the wings, how do you think that would work out in Rip City? Do you like that fit?
Oh, I love that fit. I mean, you need to provide spacing. Right now, I think the Blazers as a spacing team is one of the worst, man. You got so many non-shooters in. And then you replace a non-shooter with, I don't know, a 9
Maybe the
out of
best
10,
shooter in the
10 out
draft?
of, yeah. I would say he's a 5-star shooter. Like he has so much capability with his shooting. So even if he doesn't reach the playmaking at all, you're still dealing with a guy who can shoot the shit out of a ball and isn't a complete and utter Duncan Robinson failure as a defender. So I think the fit, even now, like you look at what Damian Lillard does the most, and it's drive to the rim. Having Jett Howard having his man like right on his hip without him touching the ball is going to help Damian Lillard score and create passing lanes just because of the shot. Like Shaedon Sharpe, Nasir Little, Jett Howard with Nurk and Dame, that's a lot of spacing for him to do his thing. So I think Jett Howard helps Damian now just because of the shooting. And then in the future, when Shaedon and Jett develop, you have a really good tandem of shooting and allowing Shaedon to do what Shaedon does best, and that's attack that rim.
What I like most about Jett is the shooting stroke is so pretty, and it looks like he has more room to grow, and you can see him easily extending range to the NBA level. Like, I don't think this is just a collegiate shooter. I think you've got someone who can really stretch the floor. So if you do have a playmaker like Lillard, you're potentially looking at so much space to operate where defense really now is going to have multiple defenders in no man's land, whether they're too far off of Shaedon or Jett, or they're too close to those shooters. And then Dame just has the ability to go by and create for his bigs. So the opportunities are really endless. And it's why all of the great teams currently in the league, you have shooters, like you have floor spacers. So you let your best players have the most room to operate. Like you don't want to go in, like, could you imagine if the Nuggets just had 4 non-shooters around Jokic?
Yeah, it would be awful.
You could just double team, and one, you wouldn't be afraid of him passing out of it. But 2, you could just clog it up, muck it up, and just make it, a really unruly game. But players like Jett Howard, now the defender has to decide, okay, do I want to double to stop the 2 and give up the 3, or vice versa? You really have to make them think on a possession by possession basis. And over the course of 80, 90, 100 possessions, that decision making is going to break down a few times, and you're going to be able to take advantage. So we've talked about the offensive.
Can I say that Nurk and Jett Howard will be a really perfect combination if Nurk's still on the team, because he does a lot of work with Hunter Dickinson. And Hunter Dickinson's a good college player. But Yusuf Nurkic is like a turbocharged Hunter Dickinson with the decision-making and the screen setting and all of those stuff. Could you imagine Nurk setting an off-ball screen on Jett Howard, demolishing whatever wing players on him, and letting Jett Howard have the most open three-point shot imaginable? Like, there's a lot of things that Yusuf Nurkic can do for Jett Howard. And Jett Howard can do a lot of things for him with the playmaking.
We've talked offensively. That's where the value lies in Jett Howard. but I think how well he performs in the league and how if he's able to, he can either become a specialist or a cornerstone for a franchise, right? And cornerstone not in the sense of superstar player, but cornerstone in the sense of we cannot trade this player. He is just too valuable to us in what he does, and that's on the defensive end of the floor. How does he fare on that area of the floor? Is he going to be targeted? Is he going to have more wins than losses on that end? How is his on ball, off ball? Where does he have to work? Is it dire? Is it dire?
I don't think it's dire, but I don't think it's good. Like I don't think he's a one-star defender. I think he might be a two-star defender with. I don't think his body's ready for the defense yet. And most rookies suck defense. Like
especially off ball. Off ball defense takes a lot of repetition.
I think that Jett, because of his height and how fast he is, he can put in an effort. But if they switch like Trae Young on him, I don't think it's going to go particularly well. But Trae Young's going to make a lot of players do that. But if he fills out, gets into the right program, learns how to slide his feet, I mean, I'm gonna bet on the
pedigree,
the pedigree of what Jett Howard is. Juwan Howard's not going to let his son be a complete non-factor defensively, but I don't think he's ever going to be great. And I think that I think he's gonna be fine. He's smart. He's smart. Like I think he's smart. I think he knows how to play defense. I just don't think right now his body's capable to play defense. I mean, I think there's always going to be that worry, but I'm betting on what he is as a athlete and like the pedigree and how smart he is. Like you can't be this smart on offense and be this dumb defensively. There has to be he has to know, okay, I can do this to a defender. How do I stop it when I'm a defender? So yeah, obviously defense is going to be the worry, but I'm gonna bet on him as just good enough to pass. How are you feeling about his defense?
Well, I think lateral quickness is something either you're born with or you're not. Elite lateral quickness, right? I don't think that's something that can be taught. But there are two other areas in which I think defenders can really help their case in becoming not only league average defenders, but plus defenders, because there are so few point of attack lockdown defenders in the league. And there's a reason why, because it's very difficult to do. The two aspects they can do is one, they can learn how to play off ball defense. And at 6'8", he covers up a lot of area. Mm-hmm. And you can become cerebral. And he has the pedigree, obviously the son of a coach, son of a former NBA player. You could start to study and learn tendencies and become a pest off ball. You don't have to be the fastest, the quickest, the biggest, the strongest to be a good off ball defender. Damian Lillard, I would argue, is a better off ball defender than on ball, because he's not blessed with that quick lateral quickness without the ball in his hands. Like he's more of a line drive guy. And we've seen Dame take some really clutch charges over the course of his career just because he knows where to be. So I think that there's one area where it'll take some time, because obviously off-ball defense is the hardest type of defense to play, because you really have to have your head on a swivel. And we talked about how defenders have to make decisions when Jett was on offense. That's the type of stuff that Jett's going to have to do every time down the floor. And you're going to have to not only get it right one time, but probably 50 times over the course of a game. And every scenario is going to be a bit different. So that's going to take some time, maybe even into a second contract. So whatever team drafts him needs to realize that you're probably going to want to start him out as a bench player and give him, you don't want to match him up against like Kevin Durant right off the bat, right? The second thing in what I would like to see improve, because this is one statistic that I feel like is tried and true in terms of translation, and it's rebounding the basketball. And at the collegiate level, if you're a great rebounder, you tend to be a great rebounder at the NBA level. Jett's only averaging 2.8 boards per game in over 30 minutes of action at 6'8" at the collegiate level, given his body, his size.
Do you think he plays like he's 6'8"? I know he is 6'8", but do you think
that's why I alluded to not finishing through contact, settling for the floater? Like I think he plays that LaMarcus Aldridge style of soft game, finesse to put it nicely, but I think it is a softer game. Andrea Bargnani kind of played that soft style to go back a little bit further as well. So I think what unlocks Jett Howard is he needs to just become a little bit more physical, fill out that body, and just
Do you think his body is able to be fill outable? Like he's not like Brandon Miller where he's just so damn skinny.
no, he's only 215 right now. Six, you can at least expect another 10 to 15 pounds of muscle.
Mhm.
And he's not, I don't think you're really worried about him losing his foot speed because that's not a bonus for him at this point in time. I just want to see more of a mindset in Jett, and it's a little bit of a bummer that Michigan didn't make the tournament because they are a fun team to watch. So he'll have to really impress in those team based workouts. Because that's where I think he really finds his spot on the roster is rebounding the basketball. And with the Blazers specifically being such a poor rebounding team, especially by position, that's something that I am looking at almost numero uno. Can you rebound the ball? We need to rebound the ball and get on the break, right? That's how defense to offense. Like you can play the best defense for 24 seconds, but if you can't clean the glass,
you got to end it.
Exactly. So that worries me, and I think that limits his ceiling. I think that is why he's more towards the late teens than the early lottery, because if he had a Wesley Matthews mindset on the glass or a Josh Hart mindset on the glass, like I think teams would overlook the lateral quickness and be like, we're going to get a potential 20 and 8 guy. You know, you can get give me 8 boards at 6'8". I don't think that's too much to ask for. Best
shooter
boards
in the draft.
Great shoot. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you can overlook the lack of point of attack defensive capabilities if, he's cerebral and he can get the ball in the glass. He has the ability to put the ball on the floor. You want to unlock some of that playmaking, grab and go. Like he's got to grab it first before he can go. So there are some limitations. I do like him. I like him obviously a lot more at 23 than I do at 6. I think if Portland were to get him, they're probably going to have to move 23.
We have 5 second-round picks
and something. I think a team's going to fall in love with him. I think he's going to go. I bet he ends up going late lottery, early teens, so like 15,
like 15 or something, like to the Jazz or something.
Someone, I just think someone's gonna be like, we need a shooter. We can everything else we have covered. We have rebounding covered. We have defenders. We are lacking that other big time shooter for our superstar. The problem with Portland is we're lacking every fucking thing, right? So you need everything, and it's hard to justify a specialist at 6. It's easier to do so at 23. Where do you see kind of like his floor and his ceiling? What are some of the comps that you have with him?
I mean, his low comp has to be Duncan Robinson. The defense is as bad as we fear. He doesn't have any playmaking. He's just a spot up shooter that's taller than Duncan Robinson.
I have his floor a little bit lower because he reminds me a lot of one of my favorite prospects in the 2020 class, Aaron Nesmith.
Ooh,
his tape at Vanderbilt. It was a small sample, but I was wowed because of all of the different abilities and how he was shooting the basketball. It wasn't just catch and shoot, wasn't off the bounce. I mean, Nesmith at Vandy was nice. It's the reason he went first round. For whatever reason, that kid just has not been able to put it together. And I see a scenario where Jett Howard doesn't put it together. So that's why I have it as the floor.
I feel like Jett. Okay, I agree. I get what you're saying. I feel like Jett can move better than him.
And my middle of the road comparison is Duncan Robinson with passable defense. Not getting played off the floor.
The middle one is tough.
Who's your middle?
I might like Jett too much, and this might be the reason. I kind of think of him as Michael Porter Jr.
I thought of MPJ. That would be more of a ceiling for me.
Oh, I have a different ceiling, but I mean MPJ is not gonna break you down. He's gonna shoot. The defense is bad, but he's gonna shoot, and he's tall and can shoot in multiple ways. Jett Howard can do that.
Okay. I don't know if I see that playmaking as the middle, but again, you like him more, and that's totally fair.
Well, I don't think MPJ is that great of a playmaker.
But I think he's got a nice handle. Not great, but
sure.
He can put the ball on the floor. He finishes a little bit better.
Yeah.
and he's a primetime shooter. I mean, that's one thing about
But that Jett, that's
he's
Jett.
more. I would say MPJ is more of a scorer than just a shooter.
Fair enough.
My ceiling when I saw him, maybe it's the
Did you? Oh yeah,
stroke.
you said your middle was my bad.
My middle was Duncan with passable defense. My ceiling, maybe it's just the way he moves. Maybe it's the shot, the frame. Rashard Lewis. Is that who you had?
Yes.
Oh shit. Hell yeah. This is not
I did
pre-recorded.
not want to tell you for this specific reason.
Boom. Rashard Lewis, baby.
Damn it.
Playmaking, handle. Again, still not a great defender, still probably not a great rebounder, but really can do it all. Probably can slide even to the 4 if he fills out, stretch the floor. Yeah, moves really well. That's
Yeah, the new version of Rashard Lewis.
Yeah, Gen Z
I
Rashard
screamed
Lewis.
way too loud, but yes, that's exactly what I was thinking.
That was the first in our Future Fridays where we both have the same ceiling without telling each other beforehand.
Yeah, it's. I agree with you. I think it's the 2023 version of Rashard Lewis. Like, of course, Shamir Nelson was the primary, but Rashard had the ball in his hands a lot because
They had a lot of ball handlers around Dwight Howard. They had JJ Redick, Hito Turkoglu, Rashard.
Hito could kind of be a comp for Jett as well, but I like Rashard more.
I think he moves better than Turkoglu ever did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but I mean, shit. I really like Jett's potential, so I'm.
I know it's early, but where would you feel comfortable taking him in the draft?
Is it bad that I think I like him more than Cam?
No.
Yeah, I like him more than Cam.
Like top 10.
Hmm.
Because Cam's going top 10 right now.
Yeah. I would take him top 10. I haven't researched a lot. Like, I deep dove on Jett. I haven't deep dove a lot of the play, but I like him more than Grady Dick for sure and stuff like that. So I would take him 10 to 12.
Okay, I think that's fair. I think that's probably where he may end up going anyways.
Yeah,
I think he's going to rise up the draft boards. So
shooting is going to make people fall in love with him.
Shooting, they're going to see him in person. They're going to get him in the gym. They're going to see him in their practice gear, and he's a guy who's going to look good in the jersey. I mean, some guys just look really good in the jersey, and like, okay, we can envision this. I see the billboards. I see the promo materials. You start to put it all together, and
cool too. So you can he'd be a great advertisement. Like,
yeah,
couldn't you see Alaska Airlines saying "Go Jett" with Jett Howard and stuff? Like, yeah, man.
There's a Blazer connection there. I can definitely see that. Like, if Portland were to fall in the lottery for whatever reason, like, and they couldn't move the pick or didn't want to move the pick or whatever, like, I think that's a solid area to add.
I mean, he'd probably be our third best shooter rookie year, right? Or maybe second best.
Third. I still think Damon Ant are elite.
Okay. I mean, shit. Jett can be right there. Like, we can be the shit. I can't pull out a Splash Bros type of thing right now, but I mean,
the Blazers could essentially be the late 80s Nuggets where you're putting up 140, but you're giving up 147.
I mean, hey, I'll take it. It's going to be more exciting than watching Dame struggle to carry this entire team, so I'll take it.
Absolutely. We will be back with more Future Fridays. I think just off the top of my head, a few players that we want to get into. I know Sage is really excited to talk about Nick Smith and Anthony Black from Arkansas. There's a couple of players in the mid to late lottery that I'm excited. Chris Murray, brother of Keegan from Iowa. Jalen Hood, Shafino, combo guard, 6'6", from Indiana. They're still in the tournament, so if you get a chance, catch them. And then there is a 6'6" guard from France, Rayan Rupert. Blazer fans, if you want Mikal Bridges, watch this kid's tape, because this is one of my favorite prospects in the entire class. To be perfectly honest, I love, outside of Scoot and Victor, I love the back end, the middle of the back end of this draft. A lot of the prospects, other people to keep an eye on. Taylor Hendricks from UCF. I want to give another look to Maxwell Lewis from Pepperdine. Like we saw again, we saw Jalen Williams came out of absolutely nowhere. Another player from the Western Athletic Conference. Pepperdine is in there as well as with Santa Clara. So like there are these sophomore and junior players at smaller colleges that they just need a little bit of shine. They need a bigger role. They need to not play in college because it's such a vastly different game. They need to have the floor spaced, play with guards like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Damian Lillard. And all of a sudden, the game opens up and you kind of unlocked a new type of player. So that's what's on board and on tap here at the Holy Backboard. If you're listening to this after you're listening to Monday's episode, we will probably be doing more Future Fridays than just traditional Trailblazer content, unless something drastically changes with the team. It might go bi-weekly. Basically, we're hoping for losses so we get more chances at some of these elite level players to boost the overall talent and asset pool here in Rip City. We're tired of being below average. So sometimes you have to bottom out before you can get to the top. And let's
go.